Hello everyone, this is Psychic Ty here with a psychic reading on breatharians, or what I used to incorrectly call breatharians, but I think the proper terminology is breatharians. So anyways, these are people who claim to get their energy basically from the environment around them, and a lot of the times that is primarily from breathing the oxygen, although I hear other things, and sometimes I've even heard it called something like solar tarianism or something, like where they get the energy from the sun and the light, not just from the sun but also from just the universe, and like the energy waves constantly flowing through everything all the time. Um, so there's different ideas on this, but the idea is that you don't really rely on food as your main source of energy. Um, and this is kind of a very loose term because there are people who claim they have never eaten or haven't eaten food for like 20 years or something. And then there's people who claim that they are a breatharian, but they simply eat like once a week, like a small meal or something like that. Or they just go on really long fasts that can be like 10 days without eating food or drinking water. And apparently that's something that a lot of people actually do nowadays, is fast without food or water for 10 days, which is getting into the blurry area of, if is that someone who's a breatharian or is that just a person fasting? I don't know. But either way, that's the concept behind it. And so I did a little reading into it. By the way, I'm on day 2 right now. I've been fasting myself for 2 days now. I haven't had food for 2 days. I haven't had juice or anything. And the last 24 hours, I haven't had water either. And I'm planning on continuing to do this through tomorrow, so that my plan is to go 3 days without eating food. I may drink a little water just to help ground me a little bit before I go to sleep so that I can sleep easier, because I do have an actual real job that I have to go to tomorrow, so I would like to get some nice sleep for that. But anyways, I was laying in bed this morning and I just started tuning into all of this information about breatharians, and I'm gonna be anonymous about this because these aren't people that are like famous. So to be respectful, I won't mention their names, but there are some people I was curious about. And so one of the people who's gone like a very long time, supposedly, they claim to have gone like, I don't know, something around 20 years without eating food. Um, this person, when I tuned into them, I saw them being kind of almost driven by an external energy, and it was like there's this white energy going through their first chakra, their root chakra, and going up, and it was almost like there were two rays of, like, almost like it looked like lightning going through them and coming up and then like shooting out, and it was almost like it was animating them, like it was kind of controlling them on some level. The other thing was that this wasn't like their spirit, or it wasn't their soul. I would call it spirit, but whatever you want to call it, it wasn't like their energy is what is important here. So it was almost as if they were being animated by something else, and it was like being kind of more influenced by the environment, because the energy, it's kind of like the saying, you are what you eat. So like, in a way, when you eat food, it's kind of like almost having this reserve that's there, that that makes you less, I guess, controlled by the environment on some level. But this wasn't necessarily, it's contradictory because this wasn't really the environment around him. This was more the environment of the energy that was going through him. And it actually kind of disconnected him from the environment around him. But I did see him being authentic in what he is saying, as crazy as that sounds, that he doesn't seem to be eating meals, although I did see something where it was symbolic, and I don't know if there's more literal meaning to this or if it's more symbolic, but there was something that kind of was like almost like this, like kind of like golden egg. It kind of reminded me of Ormus or monoatomic gold or something like that, and it was as if he was taking this in, and this could be more symbolic, but it didn't seem like, it wasn't a meal. It was almost like a supplement or something like that. But it's also possible that this is something more like a spiritual practice of like taking an energy or something like that. I wasn't sure exactly what that was, but I did see that. And then there was also like the possibility of like absorbing nutrients through the skin if you're, walking around barefoot and stuff like that, and absorbing the energy from the sun and like kind of, that sort of thing. But the other thing that was interesting was this spiritual agreement that I saw with you could call it a guide if you want. A guide can mean different things to different people. Some people say a guide is a being that was assigned to be your guide before you came into this lifetime. Other people say that a guide is any spirit that helps guide you. And so in that understanding of what a guide is, you could call this a guide, although I wouldn't necessarily say that all guides are necessarily guiding you in a way that is in your truth. And I believe that that is the inherent contradiction, if you want to call it contradiction, of having a guide, because a guide, well, I guess it's not a contradiction, but a guide is a guide, and you're not necessarily following your actual spiritual truth of your spirit. You're following someone else's path, basically. So they can guide, but part of what makes a good guide is by allowing people to have freedom to do what they want and giving people that space to be themselves and to forge their own path forward. But anyways, that was a bit of a detour. What I'm trying to say here is that there was this energy being that was helping guide and kind of keep this breatharian kind of on the path, but it was almost like it was strenuous on the body, and there was like this continuous focus, this never-ending drive to almost like this obsession, this 24/7 obsession that you could it was kind of almost like religious, how some people are like obsessed with a certain spiritual practice or deity or God or whatever it is, whether it's Christianity or Hinduism or whatever. Some people can just become totally obsessed with this, and it's I'm not gonna say it's good or bad, it is what it is. But this being was helping stay on that path and kind of distract from any other sort of pathways. You can call it like pathways in the brain, or you could just call it energetic pathways, or you could call it pathways in the physical world, as in directions you can go and different experiences you can have. It's all kind of the same thing, really. But this being was preventing like kind of blocking off certain things and kind of cutting them off. And in some sense, it was also pulling the spirit out of the body a little bit, because some of the body is hardwired to connect with these different things in the world. And so by kind of blocking that and pulling the spirit out of those experiences, it's kind of like being less present in certain aspects. And this isn't to say that these breatharians aren't present, it's just that there's something that's kind of detached a little bit. And some people would say, well, that's a good thing. And some people would say, well, you're missing out on the experience of being human, which is why you kind of were incarnated as a human. And so, you're not having the full experience. And other people are like, yeah, but you're transcending the experience. And that's more of a philosophical argument. And I think that that's depending on the intentions of the spirit of the soul before incarnating. That could be good or bad depending on the intentions of that individual, and so there is no correct answer for everyone here. So anyways, this person seemed to be like in a positive situation because of this. I was seeing actually a lot of suffering and sorrow from the past that had kind of built up, and it was almost like this was the way out, this was the path away from that. It's also, yeah, I was also getting that there's the aspect of, like, is this really working for this person? And what I was getting was that on more of a spirit level, it's like working out. But there's like this level of the body, on a body level, like what does the body want? And there's, I was getting that a little bit of water could actually make this person more present in the body, and have the spirit be more present as a physical body expression of themselves. And I was getting that there's kind of like this pattern of just going back to the same kind of thing, and just like going up in a circle, because it's kind of like disconnected from the external, so it's kind of just like on a relay of what is going on, of that energy that they're running, that is kind of where they're coming from, but it's like almost like separate, so it's like not feeding back and forth off of the external world, so that's kind of more limited to just this internal kind of what the energy that they're running through them, if that makes sense. So it's kind of like just like a repeating kind of pattern of just like expressing the same thing continuously. And it kind of reminds me of actually what happens when people take psychedelic mushrooms is the spirit kind of leaves the body a little bit to have sort of a different experience of that. And what comes up is kind of like the same sort of expression over and over. And it's like on some level you're disconnected a little bit. That's the best way I can explain it, how they're similar. They're different too, because they're running different energy, of course, to tapping into different things. But it's like kind of like the same sort of thing comes up, like people who take mushrooms, they kind of have the same experience over and over. And so when you're running a certain energy, you kind of just have that experience over and over. So there's less of this like back and forth and kind of growing because of the exchanges. But it's growing in a different sort of way that can be positive or negative depending on, where you're at, I guess. I'm not going to get into what's good or bad, because that's not the point here. and that's relative. So anyways, sorry, I've been rambling a little bit here. I'm trying to collect my thoughts here. It was like the body wanted water, and I was getting that on a spirit level. This for this individual, this could be different for different people, but for this spirit in this body, um, with their intentions for coming into the body, it seemed like this was actually a great path and that this was fulfilling to their spirit. I was getting that the body would like to drink some water like once a week, but overall, I was actually seeing that from the sorrow and the depression of the past, the where this person is now on this breatharian path, that their body overall was actually more healthy and happy, and that I was getting the age 87, like they could maybe live to the age of 87. And then I was asking, okay, what if they were to drink a little bit of water like once a week, and I was getting 107. But I was also getting that their spirit would be more entrapped in something because they got kind of stuck in their body. Um, I don't know if my screen is freezing up. There we go. So what I was saying was that I don't know what's going on my screen. Okay, so what I was saying was that his body was kind of trapped in something, stuck in some energy, and so this was a way of kind of transcending that, which was necessary. And I was getting that water fasting, or dry fasting, as people call it. And what water fasting technically means fasting from water and not having water, although people say water fasting nowadays to mean that they're just drinking water. But regardless, what people nowadays call dry fasting, which is where you don't drink any water or eat any food, I was seeing that that really is different from fasting with water, and that creates more of like a spiritual detachment that can be a growth. If you kind of leave the body and kind of come back to the body, it's like with water you're going like this, but then without water you're going like choo, choo, and so you're like going like bigger leaps and bounds as far as I guess you could say spiritual growth. And so I was seeing that really being good for him on a spiritual level, but not so much on a body level. So there you go. Like, is it always, you always think, oh, these spiritual gurus are going to live to be like 200 years old, but it's like, but maybe it's not about how old you live, is kind of what I'm getting. It's not necessarily like the more spiritual, enlightened you are, the longer you live. Like, that just doesn't seem to be true, necessarily, because at some point it's like you've kind of experienced what there is to experience in this body in this lifetime, and you're like, okay, well, why am I wasting more time? So so I also saw that for myself. I was reading myself, and what I was getting was that fasting from water, a dry fast, is really helpful to do every now and then, but ultimately it's good to, for me at least, I'm not going to try to, you know, not eat food ever again, or, you know, go too extreme, because I really enjoy food, and I, you know, I've been just nonstop thinking about not just food but also herbs that I want to take, and like even this herbal tincture I made here was made out of Everclear and water 50/50, but this, I've been, as funny as it sounds, like I've just been craving wanting to drink alcohol infused herbs more than I've been craving food or water, which is kind of strange. But I just can't wait to consume more of that. I have like, there's like 30 herbs infused into it, and it's something I've been doing lately. I guess you could call it a guilty pleasure, which is because it is alcohol, and it's like taking a shot, but it's like very herbal, and yeah. So anyways, I'm looking forward to that, and I just love eating food, so that's my path. There's no like right or wrong here. And there is also being more connected with the world around you and being kind of more present in your body. And I think that when you drink water, it helps you ground. And when you drink water, it also helps you kind of match to the energies around you. People say water is conductive, and so a lot of spiritual people, sometimes psychics and like channelers, will sometimes say to drink water because the water connects you with things, because it's like conductive and can like kind of channel things more. And I think that that's true, but also it connects you more with the world around you and the earth, and it makes you more grounded because you're kind of matching more on like a body level to like the world around you, and that's kind of being more present in that world. You can be more present in other worlds, but that doesn't mean you're present here in your body. You know, present is kind of a funny word because you're always present. It's just, are you present here? Or are you present in some other dimension? Are you present, half present here and half present somewhere else? I mean, you're always present, but how divided is it, I guess you could say. So anyways, I was saying for my spiritual growth that it's more about my truth, at least you could say. It's more about drinking water and eating food, but also that going on long, like 3-day dry fasts is amazing for my spirit as well. So I am going to try to do that more regularly. So I was tuning into someone else who is a breatharian, who I was actually seeing them not following their breatharian path, and so there's like a dichotomy of like three different types of people and archetypes that I tuned into when I was reading this. And this is someone who, kind of follows the path, but also eats more regularly. I was seeing them kind of like getting this like gleam of like food in their eye, like they're like, hooked on it, and that's so am I. So I'm not trying to judge or anything, but that's what I was seeing. And it seemed like there was a lot of like this heaviness and this baggage that was in their life that they were trying to transcend, and that they had done in the path with these extreme fasting breatharian lifestyle, if you want to call it that. Or you could just call it long dry fasting with low amounts of food, which is what some people call breatharianism. But anyways, this person seemed like it was more something that they gained from the past, having some enlightenment and like really going somewhere spiritually, but then kind of being trapped in it still. So it seemed like for this person, for this type of person, you could say this archetype, if you want to call it that. I was saying that this type of person kind of benefits from just doing it more, doing it more often. And I saw this person kind of slipping into not doing the longer amounts of time, but instead just like trying to live this lifestyle where they eat very little but like more often. And I was seeing that it's better to just eat a lot, if you want to call it a lot, or a normal amount, I guess you could say, and then go on a long fast instead of like just kind of, portioning it out over time to make it be very little. Instead, I was seeing it being more beneficial to eat and then fast for a long time with nothing, and then eat and then fast. That's what I was seeing being more beneficial for this person. I was seeing them kind of, their energy kind of getting weighed down and heavier because of this other way that they were doing it that didn't seem to be as beneficial. It was more like philosophically correct because it was more like the breatharian lifestyle of living off of as little as possible, which is, I guess, ideal in some philosophical perspective, but what I was reading that was actually helpful for this person's energy levels and spiritual growth was to do it differently. At least that's how I got it. You can do whatever you want. But regardless, there's another person that I was tuning into that seemed to be someone who was kind of pushing the narrative more, and this is someone from the past. This person has passed away now. But anyways, this person, this person was kind of comes through as like a salesman and someone who's really pushing for to be seen, to be respected, and kind of pushing like against the pharmaceutical company is what I was getting, and like really like angry about like people being tricked by the pharmaceutical industry and not really seeing what his point is, and him kind of like, I saw him like symbolically, of course, I don't think literally, but it was like a whip, and he's like whipping like whipping like basically at me while when viewing this like at the screen, I guess you could say, like just angrily whipping because he's just stuck in this anger about trying to get this point out, but at the same time it was there was some mischievous kind of behavior from him trying to make this point out of the rage of wanting to make the point that like you can do this and it's real, and like the pharmaceutical industry is lying to you, etc. Like from that mindset, it was justifying him kind of exaggerating and lying and not really following the path himself, but kind of being a poser, you could say. And so I saw that being something like more from the past, from like someone who was like pushing the whole breatharian movement like way back, and I see him being more like a businessman, like dressed in like a suit and tie and kind of like trying to be respectable and things like that, which nowadays that's not even really respectable, but like back then I guess it was more respectable, because he was trying to make a point, and it seems like the culture was different in that time period that he was doing that. So that's kind of like the third archetype, the third person that was showing up when I was tuning into this. So yeah, I think that's basically my conclusion here. So I do see fasting with water is being very beneficial on some level for the body to help cleanse things out, but there's something more about when you go without water where it's more like on a spirit level, and I just see like this gold light, like this gold sun, and it's more like healing the astral body, and then kind of allowing that to come back into the body and match to the body, or so that the body can kind of match to that energy and kind of heal the body through matching to the astral body, which is being healed by like this more golden light. So that's, I could try and rationalize that, but I'm just gonna leave it as it is before I make it into something that it's not. So I'm just gonna leave the vision for what it is. So I guess my conclusion is that water fasting is good. Dry fasting is better, but I would also say from experience, and here's some information that if you're trying this out, I would recommend listening to this part. When you eat food, you need when you eat food, you need more water to help digest that food. So a lot of the water that you consume is actually just about assisting in the assimilation of the digestive process. So if you are deciding to go on a dry fast, what I would recommend is after you stop eating food to continue drinking water for a little bit just to help kind of flush everything out, and that way you're still hydrated going into the dry fast. And then going into the dry fast, if you do a dry fast or if you do a fast for like 24 hours, you can totally just eat food and drink water when you're done and not worry about it. But if you go like 2 or 3 days into a fast, that's where it starts getting dangerous. And if you eat food right away, you're going to have diarrhea. And it's going to not just be diarrhea, it's going to be like painful, and your stomach will hurt, and you will feel like you ate poison, and you'll feel like you have like alcohol poisoning or something like that. It's a horrible feeling, and potentially you can even end up in the hospital from that alone. So if you do a dry fast for like more than 2 days, you should start with 1 cup of water for 1 hour. Now, if you only did it 2 days, you could probably just drink a full glass of water and be fine, and just give it like an hour or two before you eat more food. But if you've gone more than like 3 or 4, some people even go 10 days. If you do something like that, you're gonna want to drink just like a little bit of water, like a cup, not a full cup, but like a measuring cup of water, which is like a quarter of a pint glass or so, and something like that. Anyways, so that much for like an hour, or you could maybe do 2 cups in an hour, but no more than that, and do that for 2 hours. So you would, by the end of 2 hours, you would have drank like a full pint glass. Sorry, I was saying 1 cup. I meant 2 cups. But try and do 1 cup, measuring cup, per half hour is what I meant. Sorry. And then once you've done that, then you can move on to juice. And it's controversial because people talk about the sugar, but from what I've heard from people who do like real like serious fasting is that that's what they like to do is juice. Some people say diluted juice with water. If you've done a really long fast, for me, I've never gone past 3 days, and after 3 days, honestly, I'll just do the water thing, and then after like an hour or two, I like to even juice oranges and just drink orange juice and like kind of, go slow, um, listen to your body. And then after like maybe an hour or two from there, I like to reintroduce food, and at that point I kind of just eat whatever usually, but that's only because I've gone 3 days. So if you go more than 3 days, you're gonna want to take more precaution and maybe even wait longer. And that's just because your digestive system stops secreting, um, saliva and enzymes to break the food down, but also the mucosal layer of your digestive tract isn't as strong. So your digestive system just isn't ready to take in food, and it can be pretty painful if you do. Yeah, I hope that all of this comes out well because my computer's been kind of glitchy, which is kind of weird. Um, it's been interesting because yesterday, when I was kind of getting into the fast and like kind of energy starts shifting a little bit, I came into where I am now and sat down to start meditating, and after like halfway through it, I just kept hearing like this like popping noise. It was like sound, I don't know, like something like that, and it would just happen like every minute, and it was really annoying. And then and so like when I meditate a lot of the times, or even sometimes when I make videos and I talk about things that I just was reading, that's kind of like a big deal. Sometimes like the ceiling will like make a big pop right above my head, or the walls will like make these popping sounds, and I know that happens to heat fluctuations, but it also is just like so synchronistic, and it's just like I I've had it be like fireworks, just like just like crazy before, and so I know it's not just heat fluctuation. But anyways, this was happening like every minute, and I think it was because of the fasting and the meditation, which is funny because I felt less grounded because of the fasting, but I was doing grounding meditations to kind of balance that out, and that really seemed to have an effect. And then like hours later, it was like I was trying to go to sleep and it was keeping me awake because it kept like every like minute or two it would make this popping noise, which is really really annoying, and it didn't stop until I fell asleep, and I woke up this morning and it was gone finally, and I woke up multiple times and came in here and looked around and was like moving things around to like try and make whatever was making this weird popping noise to just stop, but I couldn't figure out what it was. It was bizarre. But anyways, strange things happen when you get into energy work. So I just thought that was interesting, and I think it was because of the fasting and grounding meditation. So, anyways, fasting affects your energy, and it can help clear a lot of energy and allow you to kind of let go of a lot of baggage. That's my experience. So if you appreciate this video, if you watched it all the way to this point, which is like 38 minutes so far, give this video a thumbs up. And leave a comment below. It's always good for the algorithms. I always appreciate that, and I always like to hear what you say as well. I will leave the links to my private website for private readings, as well as my Patreon for more controversial information, as well as crypto predictions, etc., stuff like that. So check those links out, and thank you for watching. Have a great day, and give this video a thumbs up if you watched to the end.